Sulfur is one of the macronutrients required for metabolism in living organisms. Elemental sulfur is found near hot springs and volcanic regions. Sulfur is otherwise found in many types of minerals like gypsum, that is calcium sulphate, and pyrite, iron sulphide, in the rocks and in seawater. In the gaseous form, it is present as sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, and dimethyl sulfide in the air. In the organic form, cysteine and methionine are the two sulfur amino acids widely distributed in proteins. Disulfide bonds formed by these amino acids help in the maintenance of structure, conformation, and function of several proteins. Plants absorb sulfur from the soil in the form of sulfates. As hydrogen sulfide by several enzymatic reactions, sulfate is reduced to sulfur and incorporated to amino acids and proteins. Animals obtain their sulfur from the plants. The organic sulfur that comes to the soil in the form of plant and animal wastes is degraded by soil bacteria to release sulfur as hydrogen sulfide or oxidized sulfur to sulfates. Bacteria can also reduce sulfates through anaerobic respiration or oxidize hydrogen sulfide to elemental sulfur through anoxygenic photosynthesis. Oceanic organisms use sulfur to produce certain osmolytes which are converted to dimethyl sulfide gas that plays a crucial role in the formation of clouds and regulation of Earth's climate. The sulfur cycle describes the movement of sulfur through the atmosphere, mineral forms, organic forms, living things, soil, lakes, ponds, and ocean. Let us see in detail about sulfur cycle. Sulfur is one of the most abundant elements and is widely distributed in nature. Elemental sulfur is a bright yellow crystalline solid at room temperature. It is found near hot springs and volcanic regions. Volcanic deposits near Indonesia, Chile, and Japan are some of the areas mined for sulfur. Anaerobic bacteria acting on sulfate minerals like gypsum, that is calcium sulphate, can synthesize sulfur in salt domes. Fossil based sulfur deposits are also found in salt domes. Sulfur was also mined from salt domes, although this process has less importance in recent times. Sulfur is usually present as sulfides in many types of rocks. In the rocks, sulfur is normally present as iron sulfide, although sulfates and other forms are also found. Ordinary chondrite rocks contain about 2% of sulfur, and carbonaceous chondrites may contain as much as 6% of sulfur. Sulfur is released from geologic sources through the weathering of rocks. Once exposed to air, sulfides combine with oxygen to form sulfates. Elemental sulfur is not soluble in water and cannot be used directly by plants. Soil bacteria can oxidize sulfur to sulfates, which can then be used by the plants. Sulfur also comes down to earth with rainfall when the gaseous sulfur dioxide reacts with water to form sulfuric acid. By reacting with cations in the soil, sulfuric acid eventually forms sulfates. Sulfur is lost from the terrestrial ecosystems through runoffs into rivers and streams and reaches the ocean. There are two sources of sulfur for the ocean, from the rivers as well as from the atmosphere. A part of the sulfur that enters oceanic food chain, some of the sulfur is lost to the ocean depths, combining with iron to form ferrous sulfide. The black color of most of the marine sediments is due to ferrous sulfide. Sulfur is an important component of protein, and the two essential sulfur amino acids, cysteine and methionine, are most abundant in all types of proteins. Plants take up sulfates through the roots, but the reduction of sulfate happens in shoots, in the leaf chloroplasts. A series of enzymatic reactions reduce sulfate to sulfide and incorporate sulfur to cysteine. Of the total organic sulfur, 70% is present in the protein fraction as cysteine and methionine. Cysteine and methionine play a significant role in the structure, conformation and function of proteins. Assimilation of sulfates from the soil by plants and microorganisms and its incorporation to protein in the organic form is known as assimilatory sulfate reduction. The amino acid cysteine acts as a sulfur donor to most of the other organic sulfur compounds synthesized in plants. Cysteine is precursor for glutathione, an important sulfur reductant. Phytochelatins act as chelators and are important for heavy metal detoxification. They are oligomers of glutathione synthesized in plants, fungi, nematodes and algae. Allene is a natural constituent of garlic. It is a sulfoxide and derivative of cysteine. The enzyme allinase converts allene to allicin, which is responsible for the aroma of garlic. Sulfoxides are also present in onion. Glucosinolates are other organic sulfur compounds which are natural components of many pungent plants such as mustard, cabbage, radish, etc. Thiols and sulfolipids are other organic sulfur compounds. Secondary sulfur compounds play an important role in physiology and protection against environmental stress and pests. Dimethyl sulfide or DMS is the most abundant gaseous organosulfur compound emitted to the atmosphere from the sea. DMS is produced by the marine phytoplankton and is responsible for the smell of the sea. DMS is produced by the degradation of dimethyl sulfonopropionate found in marine phytoplankton and seaweeds. DMSP functions as an osmolyte affecting osmosis. Osmolytes are compounds which act as osmoprotectants, maintaining cell volume and fluid balance. This compound is especially important under marine conditions with high salt concentrations in the seawater. Marine microbes break down DMSP to form DMS. DMS is unstable and is oxidized to various sulfur containing compounds such as sulfur dioxide, dimethyl sulfoxide, dimethyl sulfone, methane sulfonic acid and sulfuric acid. Degradation of DMS in the atmosphere leads to the formation of hygroscopic compounds that can condense water vapor to form clouds. Besides forming clouds, DMS is also responsible for the Earth's homeostasis, that is, regulation of Earth's surface temperature by decreasing the solar radiation that reaches the Earth's surface. DMS over the ocean thus has a significant impact on Earth's climate. The process of removal of sulfur from the organic compounds containing sulfur is known as desulphurization. Organic sulfur comes to the soil in the form of plant and animal wastes and the dead tissues. The sulfur amino acids are released from the proteins by the action of proteases secreted by the soil bacteria. The major types of soil bacteria which secrete proteases are Clostridium histolyticum, Proteus, Pseudomonas and Bacillus. Heterotrophic bacteria in the soil further metabolize sulfur amino acids to release hydrogen sulfide and ammonia. Cysteine desulfurase enzyme degrades cysteine to pyruvic acid, releasing hydrogen sulfide and ammonia. Bacteria oxidize various forms of sulfur. Photosynthetic bacteria belonging to the family Chlorobiaceae and Chromaceaceae oxidize hydrogen sulfide to elemental sulfur. In these bacteria, hydrogen sulfide acts as an electron donor for the reduction of carbon dioxide in photosynthesis. This is known as anoxygenic photosynthesis, as oxygen is not produced. These bacteria exist under anaerobic conditions, usually below the surface of water where light is available. Sulfur is oxidized to sulfates by the aerobic bacteria belonging to the family Thiobacteriaceae. One of the major bacteria is Thiobacillus thiooxidans, which oxidizes sulfur and thiosulfate to sulfuric acid under aerobic conditions utilizing oxygen. Thiobacillus denitrificans oxidizes sulfur with reduction of nitrate. This results in the loss of fertility in the soil due to reduction of nitrate. Some anaerobic bacteria utilize sulfate as terminal electron acceptor in anaerobic respiration and produce hydrogen sulfide. Organic compounds are dehydrogenated and hydrogen is used in the reduction of sulfate to hydrogen sulfide. The important sulfate reducing bacteria belong to the genus Desulphovibrio, and the best known species is Desulphovibrio desulfuricans. The genus Desulphotomaculum is another sulfate reducing bacteria. In contrast to assimilatory sulfate reduction, this process is called as dissimilatory sulfate reduction. Dissimilatory sulfate reduction and desulfurilation lead to the production of sulfide. Sulfides react with base metals to form corresponding sulfides which precipitate out of the solution due to their low solubility. Beds of lakes and ocean are anaerobic and favorable for the formation of sulfides by these processes. Trace amount of base metals like iron, copper and zinc in the ocean initiate the formation of sedimentary metal sulfide deposits. Ponds and lakes can have a localized biological cycling of sulfur, and such a system is referred to as sulfurectum. Sulfur comes to the ponds and lakes from the surrounding land through drainage or as wind-blown material, both in the inorganic and organic form. Organic material in the pond causes the growth of heterotrophic bacteria. Rapid consumption of oxygen in water by these bacteria causes anaerobic condition at the bottom levels. The input of sulfates and the anaerobic conditions provide an ideal condition for the growth of dissimilatory sulfate reducing bacteria. This increases the sulfide concentration in the ponds. Desulphurylation of proteins also contributes to sulfide production. Sulfide is oxidized at the surface of the water by chemoautotrophic bacteria to form sulfur. Photosynthetic bacteria grow below the surface where it is anaerobic but sufficiently shallow for the penetration of light. In this manner, the pond establishes a biological cycle of sulfur involving only bacteria. This self-sustaining system is called sulfectrum. Human activities have a major effect on the global sulfur cycle. Coal, natural gas and petroleum represent a large proportion of sulfur reserves formed from biological materials. Burning of fossil fuels has greatly increased the amount of sulfur in the atmosphere. Due to industrialization, production of thermal electricity and transportation, the oxidized sulfur has increased at the expense of the storage of reduced sulfur in the Earth's crust. Without human interference, sulfur would remain in rocks for millions of years until it is uplifted through tectonic events and released through erosion and weathering processes. But increased rate of drilling, pumping and burning has increased the deposition of sulfates. This increase is about 30 folds in most polluted areas. Sulfur dioxide is an air pollutant and it forms sulfuric acid through reactions with water in the atmosphere. When the acid dissociates in water, the pH can drop to 4.3 and it comes down to earth as acid rain. This broad term acid rain is used when the rainwater contains higher than normal amounts of nitric and sulfuric acids. Distilled water has the neutral pH of 7 and rainwater is slightly acidic at pH of 5.6 due to the formation of carbonic acid, a weak acid formed by the reaction of carbon dioxide with water. Acid rain usually has a pH of 4.2 to 4.4. The maximum emission of sulfur dioxide and nitric oxide is from electric power generation that uses fossil fuels like coal. In conclusion, sulfur is one of the important elements required by living organisms, especially for the structure and function of proteins. The natural sulfur cycle is getting altered by human intervention. There is a fast rate of conversion of reduced form of sulfur to oxidized gaseous form, which has become a pollutant and causing adverse effects like acid rain.